Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm Peter Lavelle. The topic of this podcast with George Samueli is the first day of the hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. George, it was pretty much what I expected. Lindsey Graham, as the head of the committee, did exactly what I expected, and he did ask for some kind of comity during this series of questions and answers with her, and basically, I don't think he cited Kavanaugh, but he made a reference that do we really want to go down that path? Well, from what I saw of it, particularly Amy Klobuchar, I think it's a pretty good boilerplate. What we're going to get. What was really interesting to me, if you looked at everyone on the Democratic side, they kept using the word shameful, 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 sham. And what I watched, and I'm telling our viewers, I didn't waste my time watching all of it, okay? I mean, you need to look at Lindsey and Amy, and that's all you really need to know. But what really I found really troubling is that they don't question, they have no grounds to question the legality of the nomination and the nomination process. It is clear as day. Now, if you want to mention who was for and against the last time there was an empty seat on the Supreme Court before an election, sure. Lindsey Graham's words were thrown back at him, and others, okay, and McConnell's words were thrown back at him, and that's all fine. You know what, George? That's called politics, okay? But I'm a stickler for the law, and President Trump has every right to nominate. And let's be clear here, if you read the Constitution, and the Senate will confirm. It doesn't mean the Senate has to confirm, okay? I mean, it's probably should be a little clearer. I would agree on that, because I think that there is an assumption that the Senate would, but McConnell didn't. And I don't see, looking at the Constitution, he was obliged to. Now, his reasoning, that's political. Lindsey Graham's reasoning, that's political. But the Democrats during the confirmation hearing didn't have a legal leg to stand on. And it became very infuriating, particularly whoever wrote the talking point and spread it all out in the memo, shame, shameful, shame, all of this. And it also tells me one thing, hopefully, knock on wood, they're not going to get as nasty as they did with Kavanaugh so far. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. It was quite bizarre that they should have spent so much time bewailing the Trump's or the Republicans' hypocrisy in putting forward a nomination so close to an election. They say, oh, well, you look what happened in 2016. Yes, but in 2016, the Republicans had the votes. If they didn't want to confirm Merrick Garland, they didn't have to do it. It's tough, but McConnell had the votes. He didn't want to confirm Merrick Garland, and Merrick Garland wasn't going to be confirmed. The Democrats could sort of, again, weep and wail about this, but if you don't have the votes, you don't. That's the way politics works. You don't have the votes, you can't prevail. So they spent a lot of time complaining about this, essentially a losing argument, because once again, the Republicans have the votes, and they're going to get her onto the Supreme Court. Nothing much that they can do about it. But the other thing that the Democrats did yesterday was the shameless demagoguery about the health care. Now, in which they seem to be blaming any unfortunate things that happen to Americans due to lack of health care onto Amy Coney Barrett. Now, none of this has anything to do with her. I mean, a judge has to judge what does the law recommend. Is the law in accordance with the Constitution? The issue of whether you throw people out of the hospital, you don't throw out, or who gets to have first-rate health care, who doesn't, it's not up to a judge to decide. And yet they came up with these shameless pictures saying, well, look at this person, oh, look at that, and somehow this is her fault. Yes, the Democrats had their chance. when Obama was elected in 2009, they could have put forward a national healthcare plan, healthcare coverage for everybody, universal healthcare coverage. They could have done it. They didn't do it. Well, you failed to do it. You don't have the votes. You don't have the White House. You don't have the Senate. That's your problem. You can't blame her for the fact that there isn't universal healthcare coverage in the United States.
Well, this brings up the most fundamental point, and then I cast a plague on both parties for this, okay? Because because of the lack of imagination or courage or whatever, proper health care has not been voted, not legally reviewed, voted by Congress, by both houses of Congress, because all they do is that they just kick it to the Supreme Court. Oh, my work is done here. They're cowards. They're all cowards for doing it. Both parties are cowards for doing it. And just as you said, Amy was just sitting there with her mask on, and I could just imagine what she was thinking is that I had nothing to do with it. Okay, I will be asked to adjudicate it. I didn't make up Obamacare. It wasn't my decision. It was you people that came up with it. And of course, Obamacare, it's basically the industries wrote it. The hospital industry, pharma, all these people wrote it, okay? That's why it's a screwed up system, okay? It's not healthcare in any nominal sense of it at all. Americans are not aware of it. It's just like Americans have no idea what good beer is, but that's a topic for another podcast, all right? So, I mean, it really shifts really what's going on, because my whole attitude is, and I'm very much an originalist when it comes to these things, is that it's Congress's responsibility to pass laws. The Supreme Court should, in theory, just say if it is within the confines of the law. And the way they talk about it, and I think they hurt their case, is because they're constantly saying in a subliminal way is that it should be a political court. That's what they keep saying.
Go ahead. That was what was happening yesterday, in which they were already anticipating how she's going to vote on a particular case that's going to come before the Supreme Court, and attacking her for a vote that she hasn't yet cast. Arguments that she hasn't yet heard, but they're already attacking her because she's not voting the right way. Now, that's exactly the opposite of what the Supreme Court nomination process is supposed to be about. You're supposed to look at, first of all, the qualifications. That is this person qualified? What is the person's judicial philosophy? Not how you're going to vote on a hypothetical case that's going to come before you when you're on the court. And yet this is exactly what the Democrats are doing. And in fact, people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, specifically when she was up for confirmation, specifically said, I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote on any particular case. So while they're extolling, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a god, that's exactly what she would have said. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote on any particular case, or what I think of any particular issue. And so, but the Democrats just simply took her, Amy Barrett, as if she's just simply a Republican senator or congresswoman. And this is obviously your position, and we're attacking you for a vote that you haven't yet taken.
Yeah, I have to wonder, it remains to be seen, because if it's going to get dirty, it's still in the next couple of days, okay? But I'm going to want to know, are they going to look at her past rulings sitting on the bench, and what do you mean by this? And does this imply this? Is this a philosophy of a law that you have? I mean, when we looked at Kavanaugh, did you see that? No, it was completely absent. I mean, they put his character on trial, okay? Now, being a very attractive person, relative, but she's 48? I think she's young. She's really young. And she has an adorable family, and she is a person of religion. I mean, go ahead. I mean, attack her Catholicism. I mean, it's still the biggest religion in America, okay? And the fact that she has a vibrant family, and there's a lot of family law that goes through the courts these days. She certainly would understand that too. I just don't see how they're going to attack her unless they just really want to get bloody.
Well, that's
And
the thing, and that's an interesting issue because if one thinks of past Supreme Court battles, in particular, we've got Clarence Thomas and Kavanaugh. The Democrats dropped their heavy weaponry after the hearings had closed. I mean, with Thomas, everything had, the hearings were over, and then they dropped the Anita Hill allegations against Thomas, and so the whole thing suddenly we have to start all over again. Same thing with Kavanaugh. That was also everything was going along smoothly, and the Democrats held back their biggest weaponry, which was these ridiculous sexual assault allegations. So you have to wonder, I don't know, but you have to wonder whether they're holding something back. So we'll be arguing about what's their position on Roe v. Wade, healthcare, Second Amendment, and whatever, and then boom, right at the very end, they're going to come up with something.
That would fit that's the pattern. I agree with you completely. The fact that she's a woman and the fact that she's married, the fact, and family, I mean, she's been in public life a lot. And to have this, to be even able to sit there and take questions, there's been an FBI investigation. And because of the, going all the way back to Bork and plus the awfulness of the Kavanaugh hearing, I have to think, again, I hope that they did their homework to make sure that no weaponry, as you use, is pulled out. I mean, I get the sense right now, because these Democrats are just not very bright. I guess I have a distorted view of history because when I remember growing up and I watched hearings, I used to think they were smart people. I mean, these people are just not very smart. They're very spiteful people is what they are. And so I tend to think this is just jockeying for position. They're playing politics. It's going to be about abortion. It's going to be about Obamacare. And because they know in the back of their head is that she's going to get confirmed, okay? I mean, one of the Republican senators said if necessary, he'll show up in a spacesuit to vote, okay? That's how. Let me put it this way, George. The votes have been counted, okay? They know, okay? Barring a catastrophe, it's going to happen, and both sides know that.
Right, that's right. And no, for the Democrats, this is essentially a campaign season. I mean, they can now go on for several days talking about healthcare because they know healthcare is an issue that works for them. It worked for them in 2018. I mean, having spent 2 years blabbering on Russia, which got them nothing. 2 weeks before the midterms in 2018, they started talking about healthcare, and lo and behold, they won the House. So they know healthcare is an issue that works for them and doesn't work terribly well for the Republicans. So now, essentially, day after day, they're just going to keep repeating healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. You're going to take away people's healthcare, and so on. So it's essentially election season for the Democrats, and I think they'll have some success.
Do you think, and we'll end on this question here, do you think that they've resigned themselves to the fact that she is going to be confirmed, and that will just give them cannon fodder to packing the court if there is a Biden-Harris-Biden administration?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But of course, they're being very cagey about this, as you've seen.
Cagey is not the word. They're being deceptive.
Because they've looked at the polling, and the polling is definitely going against packing the court. So Biden has come up with what I think is a truly original argument. I won't answer the question because that takes media attention away from what the media should be attending to, which is Trump. So that's every political candidate should do that. No, I'm not going to answer that question because I don't want you focusing on me. I want you to focus on him. Okay, right, you are.
That answer is one of the most extraordinary answers I've heard in my life when it comes to politics. I mean, Joe had a clairvoyant moment. Yeah, Joe, you're right. That's why we're asking the question. I mean, amazing. Okay, people can see through this. Look, FDR. He had such a majority when he pulled it in 1937. I mean, he was uncontested. I mean, unlike any president in American history, and that landed like a lead balloon. Okay, so they're playing with fire here. But then again, Some people want fire. That's the whole point. Okay, George, thank you for talking to us on this point. We're going to continue watching the hearings. If anything really comes out of other than what we've surmised here, we'll bring it to you. Other than that, a lot more news ahead this week. If you like, please like, share, and subscribe, and we have a lot more ahead.